and in this demonstration, in this video, I'm just going to talk about the AWS Single Sign-On, which is the another service provided by the Amazon Web Service to centrally manage your workforce's multiple AWS account or your application. So AWS Single Sign-On is the another service provided by the Amazon Web Services, which actually going to help you when you have a multiple account in your AWS which belongs to the same organization, and now you wanted to control over the handling your permissions or connected with the third parties such as on your AD Active Directory, or you want to connect it with your Google Workspace. So before I start with the demonstration, I would like to provide some explanation. So this is the diagram I would like to talk about. So the AWS single sign-on use cases can be very helpful, especially when you have more than two or multiple AWS accounts and you want to manage the permissions on your AWS accounts. And it also helps you, rather than providing individual IAM role or user permissions to the users, you can actually just create the permission set inside your AWS single sign-on, and then you can actually grant them the permissions and what sort of access you want to grant them on what accounts. So as you can see in this example as well as in the diagram, so this is the AWS single sign-on, and we have the two of the consoles. One is the development organization unit and another one is the production. And we would like to manage this, and also single sign-ons can be useful for connecting with your cloud applications, such as if you like to connect with the Dropbox, Office 365, Slack, and many more. I'm going to show you how you can actually integrate with any of the business cloud application. Also, the Amazon single sign-on service also provides you to custom SAML applications if you like to connect your SAML based enable applications built by the customers or their partners. And you, as I mentioned earlier, you can actually connect with your on-premise user or Microsoft Active Directory, so that whatever the existing users you have inside your AD can actually be migrated to the AWS single sign-on, and they can just use it from their existing email address. Before we start, make sure you need to have an organization set up. That's the minimum base requirement, you can say, for having the AWS single sign-on. If you don't have the AWS organization setup, then you can't enable or create the AWS single sign-on. So I have already created earlier in the past about my AWS organization. Currently, I'm logged in as a user, as you can see imoisharma under the name Sharmio. But if you don't have the permissions, then you either need to have a permission or you need to ask your administrator to grant you a permission for enabling the AWS organization. Under the AWS organization, you can actually invite multiple accounts which belongs to the same organization. It can be one to multiple accounts, and then you can actually start setting up your organizational structure. It also provides you certain services which is called the SCPs, which is the secure services control policies, which you can actually use it to control certain sort of actions. Like for example, if I say like, hey, I have two environments, and one environment is the dev environment, one environment is the production environment, and I don't want any of my dev or the infrastructure people should not deploy anything on those specific regions. Now, there is certain ways you can control this behavior using set it up some of the SCP's policies. I will gonna talk about them in later on videos, but this video is more specifically focused on the AWS single sign-on. So once you have the AWS organization set up, then what you have to do, make sure it is a region-based service. It's not a global based such as IAM or Route 53. So make sure you check whichever the region it is available, go for that region only. So currently in my case, I'm in Australia, so I'm going to talk about I'm selecting the region which is closest to me. It's Sydney. Uh, as I mentioned about the AWS single sign-on, it's just centrally manage access for your workforce to multiple AWS account or the application. It's really a great way, especially if you want to provide your users with the minimum privileges as well as controlling their access on multiple accounts, also reducing and making the risk-free by assuming the roles rather than granting them permissions or the access to your accounts by a user. The difference comes into the picture because if you see right now, I'm logging as the imoisharma as a user, and when you log in as a user or you give any user as a programmatic access, their details store in the AWS directory. So if you have AWS CLI install, so I'm just gonna go inside the AWS directory. So this is my AWS directory where you can see we have the config and credentials. And if I just gonna cat the credentials, so you can see of some of my default and echo deck of the credential of the access key IDs and the secret access key IDs. Don't worry, after the ending of this video, this secret access keys will going to be revoked, so this does not matter, and nobody's going to use it. But from the security point of view, you know that these keys are not rotated automatically, and that's the one of the security concern, especially with the AWS. So I highly recommend never should use an IAM user unless it is mandatory and you don't have an option to use an IAM role. With the process of an IAM role, what will happen, it's going to give a security token with a certain session time. So you will only going to get able to access certain resources on your AWS on a certain time. So let's get started. The first step is to enable the AWS SSO, which is the AWS Single Sign-On. Make sure you do have the permission, certain things like you have the permissions to list and view and create the organization, as well as creating the AWS Single Sign-On. If you don't have the permissions, then in that case you can't do anything much. Either you have to raise administrator access on your accounts, or if you are the owner of your AWS account and you just playing around for testing purpose, then make sure you have certain privileges to enable the service. So once you enable the service, you will see the screen something like this, and you can see here they have recommended setup steps such as choosing your identity source, managing SSO access to your account, and manage SSO access to your cloud applications. The cloud applications, they are referring to the, if you want to integrate with the, so when the user comes to the single sign-on dashboard link, do you want to integrate it with your business cloud application, such as you want to, if a user comes at, they can log into the AWS account and they can actually log into the Slack, or they can actually log into the their workspace email address or something like that. So first thing, what we're gonna do, we will gonna change, as you can see, this is the user portal. So this is my user portal, and you can see here, you will see the application at the moment. This is how it's gonna look like. So first thing, what we're gonna do, I don't want like this, so I'm gonna first customize with my domain name, which is the Sharmio. So once you type whatever the domain name you have or the company name of yours, then you can actually customize it. Once the customization is done, I'm just gonna click on save button. It might gonna take 1 to 2 minutes depending upon the how much takes longer. So now you can see I have customized my user portal. So this is the user portal which I'm gonna give it to my company's employee to log in and access the AWS resources in different accounts. As I already shown that I have 2 accounts. One is in the development environment, which is the Sharmio staging for staging process, and one is in the production. The production one is actually the control and the parent organization where I'm running all the resources, and I'm currently logged in. Now let's come to the AWS accounts section. Now you will see the AWS organization is already created earlier in the past. That's why I'm able to see all the same things which I have here. And now what we're going to do, first step is, before moving and creating and assigning users or group, we will like to make sure we have certain settings to be right. So let's go to the settings section and see what settings we have. The first settings we are getting as an information is like configuring the options when you need to federate access to user and groups on the key value pairs. You identify for specific incoming attributes. I highly recommend to enable the attribute for access control, but if you don't want, that's also fine. Now we already set up our identity source as an AWS, but if you like to change to Active Directory or Google Workspace, you can also do that. In that case, the configuration step is going to be different. In the coming video, I'm going to show you how you can actually connect it with your Active Directory or with the external identity provider such as the Google Workspace. But for the time being, I'm just going to stick with the AWS Single Sign-On, which is the currently identity source we have selected. Let's come to the network and security tab. One of the major thing which I always recommend to every users and all of my client is to have the MFA enabled all the time. Multi-factor authentication is one of the additional steps or second factor authentication which can actually help many users from having any attacks on their account. So now they are giving us the option users should be prompted for MFA only when their sign-in context changes, every time they sign in, or never. I highly recommend you should have MFA enabled every time, irrespective of whether you're signing from a new device or whether you sign in from the same existing device. Now it also giving us the options user can authenticate with these MFAs using the security keys like UB keys, or you can use the authenticator apps such as Microsoft or Google Authenticator. Now it's also asking us if a user does not yet have registered an MFA design, require them to register MFA design at sign, require them to provide at one-time password, block their sign in, allow them to sign in. We're not going to allow them to sign in, we will going to ask them to register for the first time. The changes of the MFA sector settings for the multi-factor authentication looks good to me, and it is highly secure, so I'm happy with this setting at the moment. We already remember we already enabled the attribute for access control. Now in terms of the management, it's just about the delegate administrator or the delete AWS single sign-on configurations. We are not interested in that at the moment. So let's go back to the AWS account section. Now we have created the single sign-on, we have customized our user portal, and we have configured the settings. Now the first step what we're going to do is going to create a user. Now the user we're gonna first create, and it's depending upon us, we would like to have a group or not. So let's just start from the group. I'm just gonna create three groups. One group is the development group. In this group is only for the developers. And I'm just gonna create first I'm just gonna create the user, the group. One is the development, one is the sysadmins, and so on. You can create as much groups as you like depending upon how much the number of groups you can create in a single or region. If you like to create more than 200 groups, then might you have to raise a request to the Amazon Web Services on the support to raise the quota. So this is the last group I'm creating for the PNC, which is the people and culture teams, for auditing or viewing certain content if they like to view. So I've just created 3 groups at the moment, and all 3 groups are created manually, not using a CLI or using any infrastructure as a code at the moment. You can create everything as an infrastructure as a code using a CloudFormation or using a Terraform or any other infrastructure as a code tool which you like to use, or a programmatic tool such as using an AWS CLI. So I have created 3 groups, and none of the groups contain any user at the moment. So let's just create a user first. Now I just need to provide the name of the user, so I'm just passing the username Sharmio demo. Now how you would like to send the email to them. Send an email to the user with the password setup instructions, or generate a one-time password that you can share with the user. I'm not interested in sharing the password with the user, so I'm just going to ask him to follow the instructions which we're going to receive on his email address. So I'm just sending him on one of my own company email address. That's my name. Let's change it to Sharma demo. You have other options if you like to provide the contact details, job related information, address, preferences, additional attribute, etc. Now since we already created the groups in the past, now it is asking us where you will like to put. Since this is the demo, so I'm just going to put it in the sysadmin just for the demonstration purpose. But depending upon the user you want to grant certain access, then you can put it. Now I'm just going to click on add user. So my user Sharmio demo, which is now belongs to the group sysadmin. Now you can see inside the sysadmin, I have one user in this group called Sharmio demo. But if you notice one thing, I'm doing everything manually at the moment, creating the users and everything. That's why I mentioned about earlier, if you saw the diagram again, that you can actually, rather than creating new users, if you already have the existing users either on your on-premise AD or in the Active Directory on the Microsoft or on the Google Workspace, you can actually integrate directly with them. So in that case, you don't have to create these users. The users will just going to authenticate using their existing workspace email address, and they will just going to connect with their and able to access all those AWS accounts depending upon what account access you have granted. So now we have set it up everything. Let's see, do we receive any email from the AWS at the moment? So if I go here and refresh my screen, so you will see that I received one of the invitation to join AWS Single Sign-On from the AWS app. So this is the user which I have created, and now I received the email from AWS that your AWS Organization Account this uses to provide an account. So would you like to accept the invitation? The invitation expires in 7 days. And you remember we set up the user portal earlier about this one. So once you're gonna click on the accept invitation, it will ask us to prompt us to use a new password, and which should match all these characters. So for the demonstration, I'm just gonna click on some one password generator and generate a password. So I'm just gonna click on generating the password. So let's just click on generating a password with certain numbers so that we don't have to worry about. And I'm going to include the symbol as well. Looks good to me. So I'm just going to copy the secure password, go to my sign in page, put the password, it matches, and this is the my password which I just copied and created right now. I'm just going to click on the setting up the new password. Remember, we have asked them that every user need to set up the MFA, and the MFA part of the multi-factor authentication comes now. If you don't remember your username, either you can ask your administrator who actually created a user for you. The username is a Sharmio demo in my case. Even if you don't remember, the AWS sent you the username on this and the password which you set it up right now. So I remember, so now we're just gonna put Sharmio demo, and now the password which we just set up. Now it will gonna take me to register the MFA, because we wanted every user should have MFA enabled. Now it gives us the three options. If you want to use the built-in authenticator using a security key such as YubiKeys, if you like to use the hardware security keys, or you can use the authenticator app. Just for the demonstration purpose, depending upon your organization, maybe they support different sort of security keys or different sort of authentication. I'm just going to show with the authenticator app at the moment. Now they have also provided you what are the compatible list of the apps which you can actually use. So let's just see what sort of applications you can allow. So on the Android, you have Authy, DoMobile, Large Password Authenticator, Microsoft Authenticator, Google Authenticator, and same goes for the iOS. So I have a bunch of options to download an authenticator app and to use and scan it. So let me just try to scan it up and set it up my authentication. So I'm just gonna doing behind the scene right now. I'm gonna click on my QR code. Once my QR code is good, I'm just gonna set it up. Once you set it up your QR code and it's already inside your authenticator, you will start seeing the 6-digit number which I'm just typing in front of you, and I'm just gonna assign an MFA. Once your authenticator has been successfully registered, now you can use it when prompted for additional verification. Now it's up to you if you like to change the name of your MFA. I'm just gonna say on my iPhone. So everything looks good. Now I'm just gonna add it here. So now you can see there is nothing application has been assigned. The reason is when you create a user or the group, by default, AWS Single Sign-On does not grant you any AWS accounts to be getting any access. So what we have to do, now we have created the user, we have set up the portal, and we have set up everything. We need to set up and grant them some access, right? So what we're gonna do, we just go to the AWS Single Sign-On and we go to the first to the permission set. Since now you see like we don't have any permission set has been created. So first thing what we're gonna do, we're gonna create a permission set. Now, depending upon, you can use the predefined permission set or you can create a custom permission set according to you. It comes to the very much depending upon how much granular level of details you would like to provide. Like for example, if you like to grant a user or a dev to access the EC2 instances, but they can't touch the load balancer, then in that case, you have to make it more predefined, custom permission set for that users or the devs. So in my case, I'm just going to give the power user access, which is a predefined, which provides full access to the AWS services and resources, but does not allow management of users and group. So I'm just using a predefined one. Now it's depending upon how much session duration you would like. So I'll just like to be not more than 2 hours. It is highly recommended based on the AWS. You should not grant any sort of administrator or sysadmin session duration more than 4 hours unless it is some specific reasons where you rely on. So this is a power user. I'm just going to provide access with 2 hours access. I'm going to click next. I'm just going to add we did not add any keys at the moment, and just we're gonna create. So we have created a permission set. Now this permission set is going to be bounded with the user. So you can see currently we do not have anything. It's not provisioned. Yes, it's the provision status is not provisioned. So while we are doing this, let's just come to the AWS account. Now we have created the user, we have created the group, we have setting up the MFA, we have make sure that we are following the best practices from AWS while setting up the organization. We have already set up the organizations, the user portal, everything is done. Now we will going to see because the application is not being assigned to the user. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna come back here and click on assign user or group. So first of all, you will see a pop-up. As you can see, it's complaining me about that you message select at least one account to assign. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to click to this user to have this account. Depending upon which user, what account you would like to assign to them. In just my case, for the demonstration, I'm just selecting the production Sharmio account. I'm going to click on assign user or group. Now it's up to you. You want to assign it to the complete group or to the user. In my case, I just want to assign to the user, not to the whole group of sysadmin. Although there is one user belongs to the sysadmin at the moment, but it is really good practice if you just assign by the user, not as a group, unless it's you have dedicated requirement. Let's click next. Now, remember we created one permission set only, and this is the power user permission set, which with only access of 2 hours. So we're going to use this permission set to bound it to the production Sharmio account to that user Sharmio demo, which is going to gain access on that account for only for 2 hours, not more than that. Once the 2 hour session is finished, that account has to relog in to get a new session token to be able to access the account and the resources again. Click submit. Now you can see it will just configuring the AWS account and other information for us. So everything has been provisioned. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to open an incognito window and just copy the portal URL. So let's just click on the Sharmio AWS app. Now it will just gonna take us to the AWS Single Sign-On. I'm just gonna provide my demo name. This is my name and the password which we set up created earlier. Now it will gonna take me to the MFA. The MFA which we just set up on our phone, or you can use a Authy app on your browser or any other authenticator app, whichever you like. Once you put your 6-digit MFA code, now we have assigned an application to the user, which is the Sharmio demo. So you will see now you have a choices to add integrated with multiple cloud applications, which I'm going to show you in the future. Those applications such as Slack, Dropbox, or multiple applications will going to come up here. So once you click on the AWS account, you can see we only grant a user a production Sharmio account. And when you click on this, you will see what role they have granted. So we have granted them a power user access. When you click on the management console, it will take you to the AWS management console access, and it also gives you how you can actually interact with the command line or the programmatic access. So, and based on your Mac or Linux, you can actually set up. All you just have to do is just copy and set up this. Since, as I showed you earlier on my AWS account, that I was using an IAM user with the static secret access key ID and the secret access key. Now, but if you notice, we get a session token in the end. This session token is only allowed us to use the CLI for 2 hours. If we want to use more than 2 hours, then we have to again log in and enter our new MFA code, and then you can actually use a new session token. So I'm just going to copy and set up all the environment variables. Once you set up all the environment variables, let's just see. Now you can see there is nothing has been set up here because we just setting up as the environment variable. Now my environment variables are set up. So if I'm just going to type AWS S3 just to see all the AWS S3 bucket in my Sharmio account, and you can see all the I'm able to access and everything I can see here. So this gives me a confirmation that my AWS CLI authentication worked with the power user. And depending upon whatever the access we have granted on those permissions set to this user, we can only access certain things. So this is the management console, and you can see the power user Sharmio demo. We created as a user, but it is authenticated as now as the service as an IAM role. And now if we just go to the EKS, for example, and if I try to create a service, let's see, does I have the permission or not? Just say Sharmio test EKS. Click next. See, so the power user we have created is just have the view access, and when I try to do something additional access, it does not grant me because it's now complaining about the IAM users for the pass role on the resource on this account does not have permission to do that. So the IAM user can only do certain things and view certain and access the resources, but can't do anything much. But for example, if you go to the EC2 where it is, we're gonna see, and currently you see by default I'm in North California. Let's just move to the Sydney, which is my main region. And you can see there is one instance, but it is not running at the moment. Can I start the instance? I believe so. If I can't, that means it's complaining about the IAM role. So you can see currently I have the permissions to start and not to start. If any point of time, if I need to access certain additional resources, I can ask the administrator to grant certain other privileges on my existing account permission, going to the permission set, modify the permission, or create a new permission set. Now, in terms of the application, as you may have noticed here in the Chrome, where I only able to see for the Sharmio one, let me go to the account, EC2 management one. So you have noticed that we have only single sign-on with the only AWS account, which is one account has been assigned. No other application has been assigned to that user. If you want to assign a user with multiple application, what you can do is click on the add a new application, and then you will see all the application. Now, for example, if you like to configure the Slack, you can add an application on Slack. Then you will have to it will gonna provide you all the certificates and the metadata required to recognized by the AWS SSO as an identity provider, so that once you set up everything, and I'm going to show you in the whole next video how you can do that, and once you set up completely, then you will actually able to see on your single sign-on dashboard new applications. There is a bunch of application is supported by Amazon at the moment. You can click more here to see what of the applications. It gives the most a lot briefer varieties when a users want to collaborate and see all their applications of their workplace at one place. Hope you like this video. That's it for the single sign-on. Hope you like it. Please, if you like it, please thumbs up and let me know what content you would like to make me more about AWS, Jenkins, or Kubernetes. There is some Kubernetes advanced level of videos is also coming up. So if you like it, please give us a thumbs up. And if you have some feedback, also appreciate it. Thank you. Have a nice day.